Maya Thompson hadn't even finished her second sip of champagne when her newlywed husband, Aaron Caldwell, stood up from the table. He said he needed to take a quick work call. His smile was still hanging in the air when an older woman quietly slid into the empty chair he left behind. No greeting, no introduction, no reason. Just a thick stack of cash she pushed right toward Maya, and a trembling voice that sounded like it had crawled out of pure terror. Call a cab. Go out through the restroom window. If you want to live. Maya didn't understand a thing before the woman leaned closer, eyes glossy with grief. My daughter married him, and she never came back. If this is the first time you've heard a story start like this, tell me what city you're watching from. I love seeing where everyone is listening. And if your heart skipped even a little for Maya just now, drop a like so I know you're still here with her. Thank you. Now let's go back. 20 minutes before that strange moment, Maya believed she was the happiest woman in Denver. The Pinecrest, the most elegant restaurant in the city, was calm, warm, golden. Old jazz drifting through a ceiling of dark wood. Maya, 34, owner of Thompson Blooms, finally felt like she had a real beginning again after 2 quiet years alone, grieving her parents. Aaron Caldwell entered her life like a chapter she didn't think she'd get to read. He was warm, in a way grown, grounded men tend to be. He listened. He remembered. He called her the late blessing of his life. For Maya, that was enough to trust the world again. You're smiling at yourself, he'd said earlier while pouring her champagne. What's making you happy? Nothing, she'd laughed. I just feel lucky. And she meant it, until the old woman appeared. You're Maya Thompson, aren't you? Her voice was barely more than breath. Maya nodded, and before she could speak, the woman's shaking hand clamped around her wrist. The faint smell of valerian, thick with panic, hit her instantly. My daughter talked about him the way you do. Warm, thoughtful, perfect enough to blind you. A dry swallow. 1 month after the wedding, all we got back was her body. The floor shifted under Maya's feet. I think you've mistaken me for someone else. No. The woman's tone snapped sharp, desperate. I saw him with you at your flower shop. You're exactly his type. You need to leave. Tonight. She shoved the cash closer. Go. Don't ask anything. Then she staggered to her feet and walked away like someone who had just handed over the last piece of her life. Maya sat frozen, watching her disappear. For a second, she wondered if it was some cruel joke. But when she lifted her eyes, 2 men had just entered the Pinecrest. Shaved heads, heavy black leather jackets, eyes sweeping the dining room like scanners. Men like that did not belong in a place like this. They didn't look for seats, didn't look at menus, didn't speak. They only scanned, slow, intentional, and stopped, exactly, at Maya's table. A cold shot ran through her spine. The warning, the cash, the 2 men, Aaron's disappearance, all of it locked together into one unmistakable threat. Her body reacted before her mind could. The chair fell. Champagne spilled. Staff flinched. Maya ran. She sprinted down the hallway to the restroom, shoved the door closed, locked it. Her heart hammered like it was trying to break out of her chest. Hands shaking, she opened her phone. Taxi app. A white Camry, 3 minutes away. She looked up. The restroom had 1 window, small, high, barred, no exit. She turned back just as footsteps approached, heavy, certain, unhurried. A familiar voice came from the other side, too familiar, too calm to be anything but wrong. It's fine. I'll talk to her. Aaron, and another voice, cold, flat, the restaurant manager. She needs to stay inside a little longer. Then a sharp sound, click. Someone had locked the door, from the outside. Maya twisted the handle hard, but the door might as well have been concrete. She was tracked. And on the other side of that locked door stood the man she had just married. If you've made it this far, thank you for staying with Maya through the first moments of her story. Tell me, if you were in her place, locked in a restroom from the outside, what would you do? I read every comment, and if something in this story touched you, hit like and subscribe. It helps me bring more stories that are real, deeper, and sometimes just a little more painful. The restroom door rattled as if someone had tried pushing it. Maya jerked back, slamming into the sink. Her whole body trembled like a wire pulled to its breaking point. Outside, Aaron's voice came through soft in a way that felt dangerous. Maya, open the door. You're scaring me. Too calm, too polished. Not a man worried about his wife. A man trying to keep prey from bolting. She grabbed the handle, tried turning it. It didn't move. They'd actually locked her in. Maya scanned the restroom, searching for anything she could use as a weapon, but the Pinecrest was pristine, sterile. No mop, no metal bin, no heavy object, just her purse. Her heartbeat pounded so hard it felt like it might burst. She had to get out, didn't matter how, she just had to get out. Maya, Aaron continued, voice dropping into a soothing baritone. You're not well. Open up. Let me help you. Another voice slid in smooth, clipped, the kind of voice that always backed power. The door stays shut, the manager said. We can't have a disruptive guest running around like this. A disruptive guest. Her. They were building a narrative around her while she was still standing here. Maya's head spun. The old woman's warning hit her again like a death bell. My daughter married him, and she never came back. No, she couldn't open this door, couldn't trust anything on the other side. But she had to get out before they decided to break it down. She ran to the window, climbed onto the sink, pulled herself up, tried again. The bars were thicker than her wrist. No push, no bend, no chance. The window was impossible. More footsteps outside, more than one pair. They were waiting for her. She heard someone whisper, "Call security." Like someone had just folded her fate into a neat little envelope, Maya held her breath, eyes sweeping the room. Then she saw it, a small red fixture on the wall beside the door, the fire alarm. Thin glass, under it, 2 words, break in case of emergency. This was exactly that. She stared at it for 1 second, just one. Then she grabbed her purse, flipped the metal key hook, and smashed it into the glass. A sharp crack echoed. "Maya!" Aaron shouted. "What are you doing?" She didn't answer. She hit it again, and again. On the 3rd strike, the glass shattered like ice. She reached in and slammed her palm onto the red button. A beat of silence. Then the world detonated. The fire alarm screamed through the hallways, slicing through the air like a blade. Red strobes flashed across the walls. Lights flared. Outside, voices erupted, chairs scraping, glasses hitting floors, people shouting and running. Perfect. Aaron's voice tried to cut through the chaos. She's fine. My wife just has a medical..." No one heard him. A flood of people surged toward the emergency exit. Maya stood only steps from the restroom door. If someone unlocked it, she'd be dragged out immediately. She tightened her grip on her purse, stepped back, and counted her breaths. 1, 2. The lock clicked. The door flew open. The manager appeared first, face red. She didn't let him speak. Maya shoved the door with everything she had. He stumbled sideways. Her body took over. Pure survival, propelling her straight into the screaming crowd, swallowed by the wave of panicked diners. Staff shouting, guests running, red lights flickering across the ceiling like the end of the world. She had one target, the front door. Through the haze of smoke drifting from the kitchen, she spotted Aaron fighting through the crowd, searching for her. Their eyes met for 1 second. But the eyes staring back at her weren't her husband's. They were cold, calculating, predatory. And when he pushed through the chaos toward her, Maya turned and sprinted. The night air hit her like a slap. Across the street, the white Camry she'd ordered was waiting, headlights glowing. The driver leaned out, startled as Maya ran full speed toward him. "You okay?" he asked as she dove into the back seat. "Go!" she gasped. "Please, go now!" He glanced at her in the mirror, fear in his eyes, but he stepped on the gas. As the car pulled away, Maya looked back and saw Aaron burst through the restaurant doors, scanning the crowd for her. He stood there, breathing hard, gripping his phone, but it was too late. The car turned the corner. Maya pressed her forehead against the cold window, shaking like she'd stepped out of an ice bath. It took a moment before she could speak. "Take me to Thompson Bloom's. Use back roads. Don't stop." The driver didn't ask questions. As Denver's night streets blurred by, a realization settled over her. Once the old woman warned her. Once those two men appeared. Once Aaron tried to lock her inside that restroom. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Someone was watching her. Someone wanted to silence her. And Aaron, the man she trusted, was at the center of it. The old woman said her daughter vanished 1 month after the wedding. Maya had been married 2 weeks. 2. She squeezed the stack of cash in her bag, her palm freezing around it. There were only 2 questions left. Who was deciding her fate? And more importantly, why? The white Camry cut through Denver like it was fleeing too. Maya sat in a back seat clutching her purse, forcing herself to breathe. Her hands were ice, but her mind spun like a machine pushed past its limit. The old woman, the 2 men, Aaron locking the restroom door. None of those were harmless pieces.
"You want me to take you anywhere else?"
The driver asked, watching her in the mirror.
"You look like someone's after you."
"No," Maya rasped. "Just the flower shop, please." She couldn't say more. If she opened her mouth, she'd break, and she didn't get to break. Thompson Bloom's appeared at the end of the block, its windows dark. Seeing the familiar Bloom's lettering made her knees nearly give out. She paid more than enough, but the driver didn't question it. He only gave her a worried look. "You should lock the door once you're in, and don't open it for anyone." Such a simple warning. It chilled her to the bone. She stepped out, pulling her coat tight, scanning the street. No one. No strange car. No Aaron. Only the wind dragging across neon signs. Her keys rattled as she tried to fit one into the lock. Her hands trembled so badly it took her several tries before the door finally clicked open. The smell of fresh flowers, calla lilies, lavender, baby's breath hit her like a desperate embrace. Maya closed the door and locked all 4 locks. Then she shut off the front lights and turned on a single dim bulb in the back. Door locked, lights low. No one knew she was here. For the first time tonight, she could breathe. She sat on the small chair in the back room, the same place where she used to sip warm tea, assemble wedding orders, cut ribbon for white chrysanthemums. Now she sat with her head in her hands, fighting to stay collected. What could she do? Who could she trust? Only one thing was certain. She had to protect her money before Aaron touched it. She opened the old laptop she kept at the shop, the sluggish thing that needed 2 minutes just to wake up. Tonight, she prayed it would still work. The screen flickered on. Bank logo, login. Her heart pounded as her account balance appeared. Every dollar she'd saved over years, season by season, $38,412. Her life, her independence. She clicked transfer, entered the full amount, entered the backup card she never used but kept active. The laptop spun and spun. "Hurry," she whispered. "Come on, come on." Then the screen flashed. A red line appeared, cold as blood. Transdeadly, decline. Account temporarily frozen due to suspicious activity. Request filed by lawful spouse. Aaron Caldwell. Maya froze. No breath, no movement. Just 2 words drilling into her skull. Lawful spouse. The man she thought would protect her had frozen her entire bank account. While they were having dinner, he had planned this. Not out of panic, not out of confusion, but long before tonight. Erin hadn't just locked the restroom door. He'd locked her future. Maya shot to her feet, heart slamming painfully against her ribs. She snapped the laptop closed hard enough to almost break it. Erin knew the flower shop was the only place she'd run. He'd come here. Or worse, send someone. She had to leave, now. Not on foot, not by taxi from this street, not back to the Cap Hill apartment. They'd already changed the locks. Or worse, she needed someplace safe, her parents' home. Not the place itself, but the memory of it. Every instinct she had screamed that her parents would never let her give up. She grabbed the laptop, the old woman's stack of cash, her phone, pulled on her coat, turned off the light, locked the back door. She pressed her ear to the wall for 5 long seconds. No footsteps, no engines, no voices. Denver at night was too quiet. She stepped onto the sidewalk, pulled her scarf up, and opened the taxi app again, this time not to Cap Hill. She entered an address near her parents' old home in Baker District. When the next car picked her up and pulled away, Maya started shaking, not from cold, from remembering. She and Erin had driven this road when they first dated. He'd laughed and said, "Your neighborhood has such a cute vibe. I love it." Now every word he'd ever said sounded like bait. The taxi stopped in the narrow alley where Maya used to play as a kid. Baker District was unchanged. Red brick houses, white fences, the faint, damp scent of pine. Only Maya wasn't the same. "You want me to wait?" the driver asked. "No, thank you." When the car left, Maya stood under the weak yellow street lamp, staring at door number 14, where she used to eat dinner with her parents, where she learned to arrange flowers for the first time. She dug for her key and froze when it wouldn't slide in. The lock jammed. She tried again, harder, again, nothing. She yanked the key back and saw what nearly made her collapse. Something small and solid had been shoved deep inside the lock. Not an accident. Someone didn't want her entering this house. Her throat closed. A scream stuck inside her. Just then, the stairwell light flicked on in the building across from her. A familiar figure opened the door. Nora Price, Maya's old neighbor. "Maya?" Nora frowned. "Honey, what happened to you?" Maya forced a weak smile. "I can't get in. The lock." Nora stepped closer, looked once, then stepped back, face draining of color. "Maya? This isn't broken. Someone stuffed this lock on purpose. They didn't want you going inside." The fear inside Maya sharpened into something colder. Who did this? Erin? Or whoever was behind him? Her heart squeezed tight enough to hurt. Nora looked Maya over, red eyes, twisted coat, purse clenched like a lifeline. "Maya, come inside. You can't stay out here." Maya hesitated for a second, then nodded. As Nora's door closed behind them, the cold wind outside sounded like a trapped animal snarling to get in. Maya knew one thing. She wasn't safe. Not at the restaurant, not at the shop, not at her parents' house. Someone was tracking her, step by step, and they were getting closer. Nora led Maya into her small apartment, a place almost too warm compared to the cold screaming outside. Soft yellow lights, a faint scent of cinnamon and orange from a candle. It nearly made Maya cry. But she couldn't. Not yet. Nora shut the door, locked it twice, then turned and examined Maya closely. "Maya, what's going on?" A simple question. It lodged in Maya's throat like a stone, because she didn't know where to start, and she wasn't sure she had time. Her voice shook. "I just needed to get into my parents' old apartment, but someone jammed the lock from the outside." Nora pressed her lips together, her expression darkening. "Someone's looking for you tonight, aren't they?" Maya didn't nod, didn't shake her head, but Nora understood. "I'll call a locksmith," Nora said, pulling out her phone. "Even in this neighborhood, someone will come." But the locksmith never had a chance. A sudden commotion thundered through the hallway, rushed footsteps, someone moving fast down the stairs. Nora and Maya exchanged a look, Then, "Maya? Honey, are you in here?" Maya's stomach dropped like a stone. Margaret Caldwell, Aaron's mother. Her voice rolled through the hallway with the smooth authority of someone used to commanding entire rooms. Calm, controlled, lethal. Nora pulled Maya behind the door. "Maya," Margaret called. "I know you're nearby. I just want to talk." Talk. Tonight, anything that started with talk ended with a locked door. Nora whispered, "We're not opening, no matter what she says." Footsteps stopped directly in front of Nora's door. A gentle knock. 1 tap. 2. "Maya, you're making Aaron very worried," Margaret said, her voice syrup sweet, almost lullaby soft. "Someone frightened you, I understand, but you need to let us help." Maya bit her lip until she tasted blood. "She knows I'm here," Maya whispered. Nora stepped in front of the door, steady. "I'll speak to her." Nora cracked the door open, only an inch, enough to talk, not enough to see inside. "Mrs. Caldwell," Nora said politely, "Maya isn't feeling well. I think you should—" "Miss Price," Margaret cut in, calling her full name like she'd studied the entire building beforehand. "You haven't known her long enough to understand the situation." The way she said it made Nora flinch back a step. Margaret leaned closer, but kept her gentle facade. "Maya has a history. Emotional instability. She panics easily. Aaron already contacted the family doctor. We just need to take her home." Nora turned to look at Maya, eyes wide. Maya stood frozen, partly furious, partly stunned at how effortlessly Margaret lied. Margaret stood in the hallway, face lit by the overhead bulb. Every inch the powerful woman Denver newspapers once called the Steel Lady of the Housing Commission. Every word she spoke landed like a weight on Maya's chest. "You know Maya," Margaret cooed. "She absorbs whatever people tell her, especially confused older women." The comment made Maya want to burst out and tear the door open. She was talking about the woman who tried to save her, calling her confused, dismissing her as senile, twisting the narrative so Maya became the problem. Then footsteps echoed from down the hall. Aaron. He appeared behind Margaret, hair messy, jacket undone, face arranged into perfect worry. "Mom," he panted, "I just want to talk to my wife." Wife. That word hit Maya like a punch. Aaron leaned toward the crack in the door, his voice breaking like an Oscar performance. "Maya, you're scaring me." Nora stepped back, looking at Maya. "Do you want to see him?" "No," Maya whispered, horrified. But Aaron heard. "You can hate me, Maya," he said softly, "but don't follow the words of a stranger. That woman, she's not well. She's been in and out of a mental health center." Nora looked at Maya again. This time, something in her eyes wavered. Exactly what Margaret wanted. Brick by brick, the story was being built. Maya is unstable. The old woman is confused. Aaron is worried. Margaret is protecting her family. A perfect trap. "Maya," Margaret continued, her voice like poisonous honey. "This neighborhood has crime. A jammed lock? You think someone's after you? No, sweetheart. Old buildings break." She looked straight at Nora. "Ms. Price, you really think leaving an unstable woman out here is wise? Will you take responsibility if she hurts herself?" Nora tightened her jaw. Doubt was sinking in. Margaret shifted her tone, gentle, coaxing, lethal. "Maya, just come out. Go home. Sleep. Everything will make sense in the morning." Everything will make sense. The exact phrase people use before erasing someone. More doors creaked open down the hallway. Whispers. That girl? I heard she owes money. Sold her place to her mother-in-law and refused to move. Probably mental illness. Another voice turned to Margaret. Mrs. Caldwell, if you need temporary removal, just say the word. We'll support you. As if Maya wasn't standing 2 feet behind the door, hearing each word like a blade. Nora looked at Maya, her eyes asking silently, Are you okay? Are you sane? Are you lying? Maya wanted to scream, No, I'm trying to survive. But Margaret had already shaped the narrative. The door opened half an inch more. Margaret placed her hand on the frame, gentle but radiating power. Miss Price, she said calmly. Let her come out. She's family. This isn't your place. Aaron stood behind her, head lowered, as if truly heartbroken, a flawless performance. Maya stared at Nora, breath shaking. Nora, don't open that door. She begged, barely audible. Please, if I go with them, I won't have a way back. Nora looked at her a long moment. Then she did the one thing Margaret didn't expect. She slammed the door, locked it, bolted it 3 times. Outside, Margaret went silent for 3 long seconds, silence sharp enough to chill Maya's spine. Then, you'll have to come out eventually, Maya. If not tonight, then tomorrow. No place will keep you. Her voice was soft as wind, sharper than a blade. Footsteps retreated, the hallway quieted. Nora stood with her back against the door, breathing hard. Maya, she said shakily, you need to tell me what's really happening, and fast, because those people are not normal. Maya clutched her chest, forcing air into her lungs. She wasn't ready to talk, wasn't ready to remember. But she knew one thing. Tonight, she just stepped into the real nightmare. Nora leaned against the door, still pale from facing Margaret Caldwell. Her eyes stayed locked on Maya, like she was afraid that if she blinked, Maya would vanish. Maya, she said quietly but firm, you can't stay here, not in this building, not tonight. Maya shook her head, exhaustion dragging at every limb. I don't have anywhere to go. Nora exhaled long and hard, then strode into her bedroom. She yanked open a drawer and pulled out a gray backpack. I'm not asking what's going on, she said, but I do know one thing. The Caldwells aren't looking for you to talk. You need to go before they come back. She started packing fast. A water bottle, a thin sweater, a bag of nuts, a small first aid kit. This, she added, pressing something into Maya's hand. Keys to my old car. It's in the basement lot, plate 6TT481. But don't use it yet. If they're watching you, they'll be waiting there. Maya stared at the backpack, then at Nora. You're helping me run? No, Nora shook her head. I'm helping you stay alive. The words hit harder than anything else that night. They turned off all the lights. Nora pulled the curtain back a sliver and checked the hallway and courtyard. Dark. Empty. But Maya understood now. Silence was sometimes worse than footsteps. Nora gripped her shoulders. You're going out the back, she said. No main stairwell. Go by the dumpsters. Cut across the back lot, then out to Denver Avenue. From there, flag a ride. Don't stay in one place. Don't look back. Maya absorbed every word. It felt less like directions and more like rules of not getting hunted. What about you? Maya asked, throat tight. If they come back? If they... Maya. Nora's fingers tightened on her shoulders. They want you, not me. Go. Then Nora did something Maya would never forget. She pulled her into a hug, tight, steady. The kind of hug you give someone walking into a storm. Maya, you're not crazy. You're not paranoid. You're right. Go. I believe you. The back door opened. Cold air punched in. Maya swung the backpack on, ducked her head, and slipped into the night like a shadow peeling away from its old life. The rear courtyard was so dark she only saw moonlight on puddles. Dumpsters leaned sideways, an old shopping cart lay on its side, and the wind screeched through the metal rail. Maya ran light on her feet, but fast. Every sound felt like pursuit. Every shadow looked like those two men from the restaurant. She cut through the alley and reached Denver Avenue, where the streetlights were brighter and a few cars rolled by. She stood there, shaking, forcing her breath into some kind of rhythm. She'd made it out of the building, but not out of fear. She checked her phone. Battery, 23%. Not enough for mistakes. She opened her rideshare app, then froze. If Aaron controlled her bank accounts, if he could see recent charges, if he could track where she'd called a car from. No, she needed cash, and no digital trail. Maya raised her arm and flagged a cab like someone drowning. A beat-up pickup rolled to a stop. The driver, an older man with gray stubble, leaned out. "Where you headed?" Maya steadied his face for 2 heartbeats. Then a shadow moved deep in the alley behind her, and time was up. "City Hostel on 17th Street. Maya panted. "Please." He nodded. "Get in." She slid into the back seat. The door shut with a heavy thud. City Hostel. Backpacker territory. A place Maya never imagined she'd end up in. Tonight, it was the only place she might stay breathing. The graveyard shift clerk was a young guy with headphones around his neck. He glanced over her messy hair, wild eyes, backpack, and didn't ask. "Dorm or private?" he mumbled. "Dorm," Maya said. "Cheapest." She paid in cash, crisp bills from the stack the stranger had shoved at her at the restaurant. He handed her a key, a faded room card, and a towel. "Top bunk, number 6, down the hall. Showers at the end. If you hear weird noises from the next room, put your headphones on." He went back to his keyboard like women shaking in front of him were just part of the decor. The dorm room had 8 beds. Dim yellow lights made everything look blurred, like it was underwater. Maya climbed to the top bunk, dropped her backpack, pulled her knees to her chest and leaned against the wall. She could hear strangers breathing around her, snoring, turning over. This wasn't home, not her parents' old apartment, not the flower shop. This was the bottom. Maya pressed her forehead to her knees. She hadn't realized a life could strip away this fast. From a romantic dinner, to a locked restroom, to slipping out a back exit like a criminal, to being labeled unstable in the building she grew up in, to a rented bunk bed above strangers. Layer after layer of her life had been peeled off in a matter of hours. She covered her mouth with her hand so the sob wouldn't escape. Fear burned hot, but underneath it, a question was taking shape. Who was the woman at the restaurant? And how did she know exactly what was coming? If anyone knew the truth about Aaron, there was only one name: Helen Barrett. The name lit up in her mind like a flickering bulb. Helen, the woman who bought chrysanthemums from her every week. Helen, the one who talked about her daughter Emily, lost in a boating accident. Helen, with the kind of sadness that didn't have words. Helen, the one who shoved money into Maya's hands and said, "My daughter married him," and she never came back. If anyone understood what was happening, it was her. Maya grabbed her phone. "Contact, Helen B." She hit call. No ring, just a busy tone. Then it cut. She tried again. Still busy. She tried a third time. This time the line rang, and rang, and rang, like the whole world was holding its breath. Then someone picked up, but it wasn't Helen. It was a man. "She left her phone," he said, voice low, flat. "She wants to see you." Maya's lungs seized. "See me? Where?" He answered with 3 words. "At Westwood." Then he hung up. The screen went black. No sound, no guidance, just one truth. If she wanted to survive, she had to find Helen before someone else found her first. Denver woke under a dull gray sky. Clouds hanging so low it felt like you could touch them. Maya pulled her backpack tight and slipped out of City Hostel through the back door, like someone fleeing her own life. She crossed 17th Street and caught bus 1 toward Westwood. She didn't dare call a taxi, didn't dare leave a digital trail, didn't dare think about last night, because if she did, she'd collapse. Westwood was old Denver. Small houses, narrow streets, sagging fences, pickup trucks parked so long grass had grown around their tires. She got off at stop 3, exactly where the man on the phone had told her. She wants to see you. Empty street, only wind carrying the metallic scent of wet leaves. Maya gripped her backpack, stepping back when a faded green truck turned the corner. The older man from the previous night rolled down the window. "Get in," he said. "She's waiting." Maya's throat tightened. Is she safe? The man looked at her for a long, unblinking second. She's the only one left who wants you alive. There was nothing to argue with. Maya climbed in. The truck rumbled through Westwood's back roads, pulling into an alley behind a row of old red brick houses. It stopped in front of a small gray-roofed home with maple leaves covering the yard. The front door cracked open the moment Maya approached, as if someone had been standing there, watching. Helen Barrett stood in the frame. Same cream sweater, same silver hair pulled back. But her face looked more hollow than it had the night before, like everything she'd feared was happening faster than she'd hoped. "Maya," she whispered. Inside, quickly. The door shut the second Maya stepped in. No greetings, no soft words. Helen pointed at the chair. "Sit. We don't have much time." Maya sat, hands still trembling. "You said last night your daughter, Emily." Helen cut in sharply. Her name was Emily Barrett, and 5 years ago, she was you. Maya's breath hitched. Helen sat across from her, fingers interlaced, face half lit by the weak morning light. Lines carved deep grief that had never had permission to break. "Emily met Aaron exactly the way you did," Helen said, every word heavy as stone. A chance meeting, a warm man who showed up when she was vulnerable. Maya's heart stuttered. "They married after 4 weeks," Helen continued. "Aaron took her to see houses, land. Then his mother appeared, Margaret Caldwell." The name froze the room. "She was at my parents' place last night," Maya whispered. Helen nodded, not surprised. "Maya, listen to me carefully. Aaron isn't the mastermind. He's the face they use. The real power, every signature, every tactic, every disappearance is Margaret." Helen stood, opened a drawer, and pulled out an old photo album. She opened it. Page 1. Emily. Long brown hair, bright eyes, a wide open smile. Maya's hand tightened painfully. "I remember her," Maya whispered. "She used to buy flowers." "Yes." Helen flipped the page. Emily in a wedding dress. On her wedding day, 2 strange men stood outside the restaurant doors, exactly like last night. Maya felt her chest knot. "What happened?" she asked, voice cracking. Helen stared at the photo before speaking, her tone flat, dead flat. A month later, they found her body in Cherry Creek Lake. They called it a boating accident. No investigation, no questions. And Margaret came to my house to tell me Emily had been struggling mentally and had put herself in danger. Tears rolled down Maya's cheeks. Helen didn't cry. Helen had no tears left. "But the truth, Maya," she slid a wrinkled document across the table, a property transfer, "is that Emily signed her entire condo over to Margaret 48 hours before she died." Maya stared. Emily's signature was there, but shaky, uneven. Not voluntary. "No," Maya whispered. "This can't." "It can," Helen said, coldly. "And they've done it before. They target independent women. With savings, without close family. Women with soft hearts. Aaron plays the perfect husband. Margaret handles the paperwork. And when the assets transfer, the woman disappears in a natural tragedy. Maya buried her face in her hands. Everything from last night, the locked restroom, the frozen bank account, the sabotaged front door, Margaret's lies, clicked into one brutal picture. You warned me, because I look like Emily. No, Helen said, because last night, when I saw you with him, I watched history repeat. And if I stayed silent, you'd be next. Maya lifted her head, voice breaking. What do I do, Helen? I have no home, no money, no safe place. Helen stood, opened a cabinet, and set a canvas pouch on the table. In here are names of people who question Emily's case. Marcus Hill, a couple she confided in, and a man who used to work under Margaret. Maya unzipped the pouch, loose files, USB drives, photocopies. But more important, Helen added, eyes sharpening like a blade, you need to understand that Margaret Caldwell has the power to erase anything. Files, people, truth. She leaned forward, took Maya's hands. Maya, you must stay alive. You must wait. And when the moment comes, you expose her where she can't shut you down. Where? Maya asked. Helen answered instantly. In public, in the space she's built her reputation on. Maya's eyes widened. The Denver Civic Center, the award ceremony, the day after tomorrow. Helen nodded. That's the only place she can't silence you. A violent knock rattled the front door. Both women froze. Helen shot to her feet, pressed a finger to her lips. Maya backed into the shadows. Heavy footsteps crossed the porch. A man's voice, low and unfamiliar. Anyone inside? We're doing a welfare check. Helen whispered, They're looking for you. We can't let them see you. Maya scanned frantically. No back door, nowhere obvious to hide. Helen pointed sharply at a cupboard beside the kitchen. In there, now. Maya slipped in, closed the door, drowning in darkness. She heard the front door open. Can I help you? Helen said calmly. Too calmly. A report of a disturbed woman in the area. The man replied, We need to ask a few questions. Maya pressed both hands over her mouth. Her heartbeat hammered against her ribs. The man asked, You alone tonight? Helen answered, Yes, alone. The lie, spoken to protect Maya, made her grip her palm so tight her nails cut her skin. The door closed. Footsteps faded. Helen opened the cupboard and pulled Maya out. Maya, she said urgently, you have to go, now. Where? Maya whispered, panicked. To the people still alive who can tell you what happened to my daughter. Helen cupped Maya's face gently. You're the last one I can save. Maya left Helen's house under a thin Denver drizzle. She pulled her hood up, hands shoved deep into her coat pockets, as if she could hide inside the fabric itself. Her footsteps were light on the sidewalk, but her heart pounded like a war drum. Helen stood in the doorway, small and slight, silver hair tugged by the wind. Maya, she said softly, if you want the truth out, be ready for this. They'll strip everything from you before you ever get to speak. Maya nodded, throat tight. Helen wasn't trying to scare her. She was describing her daughter's fate. Maya took a bus back toward downtown Denver. 16 minutes later, she got off near Lodo, where even the bus window made her past look different. As she turned onto Market Street, past the block where Thompson Bloom sat, she stopped dead. Flashes, camera shutters, reporters. Her flower shop, the place that should have held white chrysanthemums and lavender, was now a press backdrop. Standing at the center, in a sleek gray coat, was her mother-in-law, Margaret Caldwell. Maya froze in the rain. Margaret looked like she was running a press conference, not burying another life. A reporter shoved a mic toward her. Mrs. Caldwell, is it true your daughter-in-law fled the home in a disturbed state? Margaret gave a small, practiced smile. Poor Maya. She's very fragile, Margaret said, voice warm enough to pass for concern. She's been in therapy for trauma since her parents died. Our family has only tried to help stabilize her. Maya's knees went weak. It felt like Margaret squeezed her throat from across the street. Another reporter jumped in. There are rumors Maya disappeared with your son's money. Is that true? Margaret touched her chest, as if wounded. I wouldn't call it theft, she murmured, but there were questionable movements in our joint account. Aaron had to freeze it, to protect both of them. Truth bent into something cold and poisonous. Then Margaret softened her tone for the kill. The saddest part is, Maya seems to be under the influence of an elderly woman with cognitive decline, someone who's misled her before. Helen, she wasn't just going after Maya, she was erasing Helen's credibility. She was covering Emily's death with dirt again. Maya's grip tightened around her backpack until her knuckles blanched. She swallowed hard and stepped back into a narrow side alley, hiding from the cameras. At that exact moment, Margaret's gaze swept the crowd and paused. Not because she saw Maya, but because an aide leaned in, raised a phone, and whispered, She's nearby. Maya stopped breathing, like someone had clamped a fist around her heart. She couldn't stay. She turned to leave. Maya? A quiet voice came from the corner. She spun. Nora Price stood there, long wine-colored coat, hood pulled low, eyes sharp and awake. Nora, what are you doing here? Moving. Now. Nora grabbed her sleeve and pulled her deeper into the shadow of the building, blocking the sightlines from the press. They're painting you as unstable. You can't get caught on camera right now. Margaret is, Maya choked, destroying my life. Nora nodded once. She is, and she's doing it in front of the press so everyone believes her before you say a word. How did she know I'd come here? She doesn't, Nora whispered. She just knows the shop is your anchor, and people around here always stand with whoever has the title. A camera shutter snapped somewhere nearby. Maya flinched. Nora, I can't stay if they... I know, Nora cut in. That's why I came. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a small black key ring. One key had a label, Caldwell, office. Maya stared. Is that... Nora. She met Maya's eyes without flinching. I worked 3 months at the Denver Housing Commission office under Margaret. You really think I don't know what she keeps there? Maya's lungs seized. Nora went on. She has a safe. Inside is a gray notebook. We called it the graphite ledger. In it, there's a list called transfer potentials. Transfer? Maya's mouth went dry, as in women she plans to move assets from. Maya felt the ground tilt. Is my name, she swallowed, on that list? Nora didn't nod, didn't shake her head. She just squeezed Maya's hand. I never dared open it. My job was to organize everything around it. The list gets updated monthly. Maya's legs trembled. She already knew part of the answer. Nora pressed the keys into her palm. This is a spare set the commission's tech team held. When I quit, they forgot to collect mine. Where is Margaret's office? Maya asked. 3rd floor. Room 3B. She's sometimes late, but almost every evening. She comes back alone to update that ledger. The metal felt icy against Maya's skin. Nora, why are you helping me? Nora held her gaze. No fear, no doubt, just truth. Because of what they did to Emily Barrett, and because last night, when I looked in your eyes, I saw hers. 5 years ago. Wind whipped down the street. Cameras still flashed at the shop entrance. Margaret kept building her story. Nora pulled Maya deeper into the alley. Listen to me, Maya. They've taken your home, your money, your reputation, but they haven't taken the truth. Not yet. She lifted Maya's hand and closed her fingers around the key. Tonight, not tomorrow. No waiting. You need to get into Margaret's office and take that graphite ledger before she erases Emily's name and writes yours in. Maya glanced toward the neon glow of her flower shop, blurred by rain. She felt like she was standing on the line between survival and disappearance. Nora's last words landed like a verdict. Maya, without that truth in your hands, you'll vanish exactly the way Emily did. Denver at night was so cold it felt like every breath could turn to glass. Maya stood before the Denver Housing Commission building, an ugly concrete block from the 60s, square, heavy, unfeeling. Exactly like the people who ran it. Behind her, Lodo was still buzzing with bars, taxis, late-night wanderers. But here, where the city's official business lived, everything was unnervingly still. Like Denver's darkest stories were trapped inside these walls. Maya pulled her coat tighter. Left pocket, the keyring Nora gave her. Right pocket, her phone. Her last piece of proof if she survived tonight. And in her head, Helen's warning, tolling like a funeral bell. They'll clear you out before you ever speak a word. Maya inhaled, stepped toward the back lot, exactly where Nora told her the service door would be. A metal door, peeling paint. Wedged between two industrial dumpsters. No cameras, no guard. A door for invisible people. She slid the key in, turned, click. It opened so easily, it scared her. Inside was a long hallway with flickering neon lights and the sharp bite of industrial cleaner. A floor scrubber whined somewhere in the distance. A janitor was working at the far end. Maya moved the opposite direction, soundless, like a shadow. On the third floor, where Nora said Margaret's office was, the hallway fell into dead silence. Thick carpet, motion lights flicking on only when she passed. The closer she got, the faster her heartbeat kicked. She stopped at room 3B-M, Caldwell. Her name in polished gold. Too elegant for what she really was. Maya pulled out the key ring. First key, no. Second, click. The lock turned. Maya swallowed hard. The door opened with a whisper of cold air. Inside, Maya immediately understood what Nora meant. Margaret's office wasn't a workspace. It was an altar, a shrine to power. Everything was disturbingly perfect. Pens aligned by color, paper stacks without a single bent corner, photos with politicians hung like medals, the scent of expensive wood oil lingering in the air, and behind the walnut desk, disguised within a slate gray wall panel, a safe. Maya stepped closer, no keypad. No fingerprint scanner, just a key lock. She sifted through the keys. One long rounded key, different from the rest. She slid it in, turned. The safe groaned open. Inside wasn't gold or cash. It was a book, pale gray cover, fiber-bound, edges worn from countless openings. Graphite ledger. Maya reached out, but the moment her fingertips touched it, she shivered. The book was cold, not paper cold, grave cold. She carried it to the desk and switched on the lamp. The yellow light washed over the first page. Name, status, property, executor, notes. And in the executor column, Caldwell, Aaron J. Blood drained from Maya's face. She flipped the next page, a list, 25 names. Missing, suicide, road accident, carbon monoxide, slip and fall, boat drowning. All closed cases, all high-value properties. She turned to page 17, and there it was. Barrett, Emily R. Status, deceased. Property, one-bedroom condo, Rhino District. Executor, Caldwell, Aaron. Notes, resolved, accidental overdose. Maya's breath broke, not because of Emily's death, but because of the line right after. Next candidate, M. Thompson. The room tilted violently. She flipped to the final page. Thompson, Maya, E. Status, in progress, executor, Caldwell, Aaron, notes, transfer underway. It felt like hands wrapped around her throat from the inside. Maya snapped the book shut, shaking. She grabbed her phone, opened the camera, and took pictures. Every page, every line, every ink stroke. The shutter clicks echoed through the stillness. She reached the last page when the office door's glass panel trembled. Maya froze. Phone raised like a blunt weapon. No door opening, no footsteps. Just a faint ding from the elevator. Someone had reached the floor. She killed the lamp and lunged toward the safe. Her hand shook so badly she fumbled the book. Bootsteps thudded down the hall. Slow, steady, measured, like someone who knew exactly where he was going. Aaron. Maya shoved the ledger into the safe and slammed it shut just before the lock clicked too loudly. She flicked off the lights, slipped out the door, and sprinted. But she was already too late. Footsteps turned into the hallway ahead. A key slid into the lock of room 3B. No thinking, no looking back. Maya ran, down the stairs, her body moving faster than her fear. 3 floors. 2. 1. She burst into the main lobby. The front doors were chained shut, no exit. Aaron's voice echoed from above, clear, calm, almost patient. Maya, you shouldn't have done that. Her eyes darted, no escape. She bolted toward the back of the lobby, a small door, rusty, unmarked except for faded letters. Maintenance closet. She grabbed the handle. It opened. Maya slipped inside and slammed it shut, just as Aaron's footsteps hit the stairwell. She slid the bolt from the inside, breath ragged, legs shaking, total darkness. Chemical fumes stinging her nose, mops leaning in the corner like silhouettes of silent watchers. Aaron's voice carried down the hall. You have nowhere to go, Maya. Listen to me. Open the door. She covered her mouth, afraid her breathing would betray her. 3 knocks, slow, even. Then silence, a thick, suffocating silence. Not the silence of a man giving up, the silence of someone who had just thought of something worse. The dark utility closet pressed against Maya's back like a slab of cold steel. Outside, Aaron's knocking had stopped, but the silence that followed was worse than any threat. She pressed her ear to the door. No footsteps, no breathing, just a dead, hollow quiet, like Aaron had dissolved into the hallway, waiting for her to make one wrong move. Maya swallowed hard, gripping her phone, not to call anyone but to remind herself she still had something worth surviving for. In the suffocating dark, every heartbeat felt loud enough to give her away, every breath a betrayal. If she stayed one more minute, any sound could be the one that exposed her. Then she noticed it. The faint glow under the door was gone. He was standing right outside. She clamped a hand over her mouth to keep from sobbing. Then, a soft, distant beep. The elevator. Someone had arrived. A custodian, a security guard, or one of Aaron's men. No time to weigh the odds. She heard Aaron's steps shift swift, precise, moving away from the door. This was it. The one sliver of a window she would get. Maya slid back the lock, cracked the door, peeked out. The hallway glowed faintly, lit by the elevator indicators dropping to the lobby. No Aaron. One sharp inhale, she ran. Maya sprinted down the endless hallway toward the far staircase. No elevator. No hesitation. Every footstep echoed off the empty concrete. She grabbed the railing, tearing down the stairs as if gravity itself wanted her gone. 2nd floor. 1st floor. She burst into a side corridor. An emergency exit leading to the empty parking lot behind the building. The metal push-bar door was braced by a wooden plank. A crack along the hinge suggested someone else had once forced their way out. She ripped the plank free. The door exploded outward, metal clanging like a gunshot in the night. Maya pulled it shut behind her as she ran, an instinct buying her a few seconds. Cold night air slashed across her face. Still better than Aaron's breath on her neck. She crossed the slick parking lot, slipping once on the wet pavement. Her coat was soaked, her lungs burned, but she kept moving. Her phone buzzed. Battery 5%. Maya opened the ride app with shaking hands. Pickup confirmed. Driver arriving in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. 4 minutes in which Aaron could walk out here and end everything. She ducked behind a black SUV, folded into a crouch, slowing her breathing. Rain hammered the roofs of empty cars, every drop sounding like approaching footsteps. Headlights flashed through the lot. A white sedan rolled to a stop. The driver scanned the darkness, nervous. Maya bolted. She yanked open the back door and threw herself inside. He flinched.
Lady, it's late. You okay?
Please, go, now. No questions. He hit the gas. The lot faded behind them, yellow lights smearing across the windows, lights tied to Margaret, to Aaron, to everything hunting her. Maya checked the rear window. No silhouettes. No one running toward the car. But the fear stayed. It clung to her like wet clothes. She told the driver to take her to the old administrative district, a neighborhood with a hostel she remembered from her early jobs, a place nobody looked twice at a scared woman. Room 12 was at the end of a warped hallway. The smell of mildew clung to the walls. The iron bed creaked as she sat. Her body finally collapsed after hours of being held together by adrenaline. She unlocked her phone, scrolled through the photos, the graphite ledger's first page, Emily's page, her own page, in progress. Her whole body trembled. She had evidence, but Aaron had power, a machine, the media, and a mother who could rewrite reality. All Maya had was truth, and truth felt as fragile as a piece of paper in a hurricane. 2 a.m. Maya lay facing the wall, eyes wide open. She couldn't sleep. Couldn't blink without seeing the words, transfer underway. Who did she have left? Where could she go? Her mother's voice whispered from memory, anyone who hits the truth will end up breaking their own hands. You don't need revenge, just stand. Stand. But right now the world wanted her flat on the ground. She thought of Helen, the mother who lost her daughter to Aaron, the one person who understood exactly what was coming. If not for Helen, Maya wouldn't even know what she was fighting. 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Maya sat up, face swollen from fear, exhaustion, and the weight of the night. Her decision was instant. As soon as the sun rose, she'd go to Helen. She wasn't running anymore. Denver's sky lifted from graphite to pale gray. Maya left the hostel with her hood up, moving fast along quiet streets. When she reached Helen's little house, her hands trembled so badly she had to grip her sleeves before knocking. The door opened slowly. Helen stood there, eyes dark from a sleepless night, mouth trembling. Maya, you survived. Not a celebration, a confirmation. Because she'd been afraid Maya wouldn't be the one knocking. Maya collapsed into her arms, breath breaking apart. Helen, I have the ledger. I took photos. But Aaron knows I was there. He won't stop. Helen held her tighter. You don't have to beat them alone anymore. From here on, they'll have to face us. The door closed behind them. Rain began to fall outside. Inside, 2 women braced for the most dangerous fight of their lives. Maya sat in Helen's kitchen, hands wrapped around a steaming mug of tea she couldn't drink. Denver's cold morning seeped through the window, the pale fog outside blurring out whatever beauty the city had left. Helen stood by the sink, arms folded, tight holding herself together more than keeping warm. Show me, she said. Maya unlocked her phone and slid it over. Photo after photo. Emily's page, her own. Dozens of names, every one with the same executor. Caldwell Aaron. The glow from the screen carved deep shadows into Helen's face, making her look older, more hollow, more wounded. So it's true, Helen whispered. He's doing to you exactly what he did to Emily. Maya nodded, throat too tight to speak. Helen pulled a chair closer. Listen to me carefully, Maya. If we want to bring Margaret and Aaron down, the police cannot be our first stop. Why not? Because most of Denver PD relies on housing data verified by the commission. Now tell me, who controls housing records in this city? Maya's voice cracked. Margaret. Helen nodded once, sharp. If we walk into a station right now, they'll label you unstable. Or worse, they'll call you a thief and an assailant. Maya flinched. Margaret's press statements from yesterday still cut like glass. Then what do we do? She asked. Helen covered Maya's trembling hand with her own. We go somewhere Margaret can't twist the truth. The public. Maya stared, processing. Helen continued, voice steady. Tomorrow, Margaret gets her Civic Service Award at the Civic Center. Press, officials, every camera in the city. If we drop the evidence there, on stage, she can't spin the narrative anymore. Maya finished, breath breaking. Exactly, Helen said. But right now, you need to leave. Stay off the radar. Don't let anyone know where you... Before Helen could finish, her phone rang. Unknown number. Both women froze. Helen answered, holding the phone away from her face. Hello? A man's voice, cold, clipped, metallic. Is this Helen Barrett? Helen didn't move. This is Denver Police. Open your door, ma'am. We have a warrant. The kitchen froze around them. Maya shot to her feet. They're here. For me? Helen's head barely shook, but fear in her eyes said everything. No, they're here for both of us. The pounding started, hard, controlled, authoritative. Mrs. Barrett, open up, now. Helen whispered. Maya, bedroom, back window, go. But you, go. The command of a mother who had already buried one child. Maya ran down the narrow hallway. Behind her, Helen moved to the front door, voice strangely level. Just a moment, I'm in the kitchen. Maya reached the bedroom, opened the window. Cold air slapped her in the face. The drop was nearly 2 meters. Heavy footsteps boomed at the front door, a key turning. They were letting themselves in. No time. Maya swung a leg over the sill, a sudden voice from the side. What are you doing up there? The neighbor on the balcony next door, wide-eyed, alarm spreading across her face. Please don't. The woman screamed. She's here! She's trying to escape! The front door exploded inward, a crack like a gunshot. Officers stormed in. Mrs. Barrett! Mrs. Barrett! Helen shouted. I'm here! I'm not running! You have no right! Then a harsher voice. You're under arrest for obstruction of justice and assaulting citizen Aaron Caldwell. Maya froze, a bolt of molten pain driving through her chest. They're pinning that on her. She bit down on her lip until she tasted blood. She wanted to run back, wanted to fight, wanted to burn the whole house down to free Helen. But Helen had said the words. You have to live if you want the truth to live. Metal cuffs clinked. Helen's voice was swallowed by orders, radios, boots on hard wood. Helen was gone. Maya had to move. She dropped from the window, hit the wet ground hard, pain shooting through her ankle, but nothing broke. She pushed herself up and ran through the backyard, past the fence, into the narrow alley behind the houses. She didn't look back, couldn't. Reaching the street, Maya pressed herself against a wall, hood up. A police cruiser rolled past, lights flashing, coloring the pavement blue and red. She folded into a shadow until it disappeared. Then she called a taxi with trembling hands. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew one truth. If they caught her tonight, her story would end like Emily's. She whispered to herself, I have to make it to the Civic Center. I have to go public. I have to do this for Helen. A taxi pulled up. The driver glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Where to? Maya sucked in a breath. The answer sealed her fate. Take me to the Civic Center auditorium. Denver at noon was blinding. Sunlight bounced off the glass of the Civic Center auditorium like 1,000 blades, ready to slice open the city's prettiest lies. 3 blocks away, Maya stood in the corner of an abandoned parking lot. Rain-soaked coat from last mate, hair tangled, shoes soaked through, a face carved by exhaustion. Anyone looking at her would think she was homeless, not someone about to shake an entire city. She pulled out her phone. Battery, 12%. But every photo of the graphite ledger was still there, every page documenting the deaths of innocent people. Maya tightened the straps of her backpack. Helen, I'll finish what you never got to finish. For Emily. On the walk toward the Civic Center, she saw press everywhere. News vans, boom mics, telephoto lenses, and posters of Margaret Caldwell plastered outside the entrance. Honoree for community service. A beautiful lie, printed on glossy paper. Maya kept her head down, slipping past staring eyes. Even from blocks away, she felt the pressure closing in around her, a silent message screaming in her skull. You will never beat Margaret Caldwell. She inhaled sharply. A camera caught sight of her from afar. A reporter frowned, trying to place her face. Maya ducked into a narrow alley, pulse slamming in her ears. Not yet. Not now. She couldn't be seen. She circled behind the building, a stone walkway leading toward a service entrance. A black SUV sat idling. A man leaned against it, shoulders shaking, head bowed. He looked up when Maya approached. Red eyes, a face wrecked by grief. Who are you? She asked. It took him a moment to speak. His voice was raw. I'm Mark Barrett, Emily's brother. Maya's heart dropped so hard she almost staggered. Mark? How did you? You called my mother. Told her. You had evidence. She was taken this morning. He swallowed hard. She said, if anyone called, I should come here to find you. Maya covered her mouth. Her whole body trembled. Mark stepped closer, but kept a respectful distance. Tell me the truth, he whispered. Did you find what killed my sister? His voice was a frayed rope. Please, tell me she didn't do that to herself. It was them, wasn't it? Maya nodded, eyes burning. Mark stared down at his hands, male, steady, hard-working hands, now curled like he was gripping something invisible. I knew it. I knew from the first day. Emily never touched pills, never went anywhere with Margaret. She hated that woman. He met Maya's eyes. But I'm just a mechanic. Who would listen to me? Who would hear me? Emily didn't hurt herself, Maya said. Her voice sharpened like steel. She was one of dozens labeled accidents. I have everything, right here. Mark held his breath like he was standing in court awaiting a verdict. Slowly, painfully, he exhaled. Then today, he said, voice breaking, we take her name back. Maya rested a hand on his arm. For the first time since the restaurant restroom, she didn't feel alone. When they stepped out of the alley, more people waited outside the Civic Center. A middle-aged woman clutching a framed portrait of an older man. A young man guiding his frail mother forward. Another woman holding a stack of wrinkled documents. They turned toward Maya, and Maya understood instantly. Mark whispered, they're the ones my mother called. Families who lost someone in accidents, like Emily. One woman stepped forward, voice trembling. You're Maya Thompson? You're the one with the ledger. Maya nodded. The woman burst into tears. My husband, 2 years ago. She lifted a photo of a gentle-eyed man. They said he fell down the stairs, but he never used the stairs alone. Another voice. My brother signed something before he vanished. Commission staff said it was routine. They refused to show me the paperwork. An elderly woman pressed her hands together. Please, help us. If you're the last one still alive, you must speak. Maya had never imagined a moment like this. Stranger's grief folding into hers, becoming something stronger, a force that steadied her spine. She drew a breath. It's not me who will help, she said. She lifted her phone. It's the truth. Mark nodded, eyes blazing. Let's go inside. Inside the Civic Center, grand chandeliers, soft violin music, warm golden lighting. A giant portrait of Margaret dominated the stage. Beneath it, honoring those who protect the heart of our city. Protect was too gentle a word. Mutilate felt closer. Maya's stomach twisted. Aaron stood several rows from the stage, adjusting his tie. A fresh suit. A fresh lie. They had no idea. Today, Maya was the bone lodged in their throats. Mark leaned close. When do we do it? Right before she goes on stage, Maya whispered. A few minutes more. Her breath weighed like concrete, but step by step her resolve sharpened. Mark, the families, and several others formed a small ring around her. A wall of grief and courage she didn't know she'd needed. She stood in the central aisle, the pathway that led directly to the stage. And then, the announcement. Please take your seats. The ceremony will begin in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes to expose everything. 2 minutes to tear Margaret's paper throne apart. 2 minutes to finish what Emily never could. Maya stood tall, fingers locked around her phone, the only proof standing between truth and disappearance. The house lights dimmed. The stage lights flared. Margaret stepped out. Applause thundered, and Maya took one step back, bracing herself, ready to walk forward, ready to split the ceremony open, ready to drag a storm down on Margaret Caldwell's head. The Civic Center auditorium blazed like a second sun. Margaret Caldwell walked on stage with a smile polished down to the millimeter. The smile of a woman convinced the entire room, the entire city, the entire press corps, was already in her pocket. She stood behind the podium, hands resting on the glossy wood, leaning forward like this was a sermon and she was the chosen preacher. In the aisle, hidden in the dark, Maya waited. Behind her stood Mark Barrett and the families of the other victims, silent shadows forming the spine she could lean on without falling. The host began. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to present... Maya stepped out. No trembling, no hesitation, no permission. The entire room turned. Hundreds of eyes, hundreds of breaths held. Maya walked straight toward the stage like someone who had already died once and had nothing left to lose. The host panicked. Miss, you can't... Maya tore the microphone out of his hand. Static cracked through the hall. Every head snapped toward her. Behind her, Margaret froze. Maya lifted her phone, its screen glowing like the only weapon she needed to break an empire. This, Maya said, voice quiet but cold enough to cut bone, is the book Mrs. Caldwell never wanted anyone to see. A wave of murmurs swept across the audience. Maya opened the first image. She raised the phone toward the giant projection screen. The technician hesitated, but the roar of people shouting for him to show it made him flinch and connect the feed. The first name filled the screen. Barrett, Emily R. Status, deceased. Executor, Caldwell Aaron. Then the next name. Then the next. Then the next. A woman behind Maya broke down sobbing. Maya continued. These deaths were not accidents. Not self-inflicted, not slips, not falls, not boating mishaps. She turned, locking eyes with Margaret. You chose them. You took their homes, and you used your son to get close to them. The microphone shook in Maya's hand from emotion, but her voice didn't waver. This book is evidence, not a story, not a feeling, not a theory. She faced the crowd. It is the truth. Margaret lunged, ripping the mic from Maya's hand. You're mentally unstable! You're spreading delusions! But before she could continue, a man in the second row leapt to his feet. My wife also fell down the stairs. I never believed you. Then a woman shouted. My husband's file disappeared a week before he died. That was you. Then another voice. My daughter voluntarily transferred her home. I want answers. The room detonated. Voices rising, pain boiling over, grief turning into fury. Margaret snapped. All of you, sit down. None of this, but the host shaking cut her microphone. Aaron, standing near the front, went pale. He stepped backward. then another step, like the floor had turned to cracking ice beneath him. Maya looked right at him. No love, no hatred, just truth. You had my name listed as next. Aaron opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The double doors slammed open. Police and investigators rushed in. Margaret screamed, "Good! Arrest her! Arrest that girl!" But the lead investigator raised a hand. We received a file from an anonymous source. The images match reopened evidence from closed cases. The officers didn't look at Maya. They looked at Margaret. The investigator stepped onto the stage, voice like a blade. "Mrs. Margaret Caldwell, you are requested to cooperate with a formal inquiry relating to more than 20 suspicious deaths and fraudulent property transfers." The room fell dead silent. Margaret stared, as if the truth itself had slapped her across the face. No, I'm the honoree. Two officers approached. One extended a hand. "Ma'am, please come with us." Camera flashes exploded. People yelled. Reporters surged like a stampede. Mark stood in the aisle behind Maya. He didn't speak. Tears simply fell. Not from grief, but from a release he'd waited years for. Aaron tried to run, but the crowd closed around him. "You took my sister! That was my husband! You ruined my family!" He made it 3 steps before officers grabbed him. Handcuffs clicked. Maya took a single step back, watching everything fracture. Not with joy, not with revenge, but with the quiet exhale of someone witnessing the end of a long, dark corridor. The stage was chaos, reporters shouting, families crying, police escorting Margaret and Aaron through a hurricane of flashing lights. Maya stood still, small and soaked and exhausted. Mark walked to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "If my sister were alive," he said, voice breaking, "she'd thank you." Maya shook her head gently. "No, I just did what anyone in my place would have done." Mark looked at her, really looked. "No, Maya, most people stay silent. You didn't." The words cracked something frozen inside her, and for the first time in weeks, her body shook not from fear, but from relief. Days later, Denver's headlines read, "The Gray Ledger exposes massive housing fraud. Caldwell mother and son under criminal investigation." Helen Barrett was released the next morning. When Maya arrived at her porch, Helen pulled her into the tightest, shaking embrace, like holding Emily one more time. "Maya," she whispered, "thank you for daring to speak." But Maya only smiled softly. "The truth spoke for itself, Helen. I just held the microphone. Sometimes, the scariest thing isn't the darkness, but the belief we have to walk through it alone. But here's the truth. It only takes one person, one, to stand up, even shaking, and the darkness starts to shrink. Not because we're stronger than it, but because truth, once spoken, is louder than any silence forced on us. If you've ever had to stand alone or watched someone do the right thing with trembling hands, tell me how this story made you feel. Thank you for staying until the end. May truth, in every life, always find a way into the light.